Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to show you how to take this door off and plane it. Alright, so there's a couple ways to do this. So my favorite method is to take a nail set, stick it in the hole on the bottom of the hinge, and what you want to do is take a hammer and you pop the hinge pins out. So take all 3 hinge pins out, put them in your pocket, in your tool belt, just somewhere safe so you don't lose them, and then you just grab the door and you can pull it right off. And by doing it that way, you're going to leave half of the hinge is still going to be on the door and the other half is still on the actual jamb. So it's just a little easier, in my opinion, to hang the door back up once you use that method. If you have squeak-free hinges, sometimes the nail set method won't work because you can't really get anything in that hole. So if that's the case, just open up the door and just unscrew all the screws. Instead of putting them in your pocket, I recommend you, once you take all the screws out, put the door off to the side, take the screws and just screw them back in the holes where they came from. Just a little easier. I put them in my tool belt before, and you go to hang the door back up, you throw your screws in and you're missing one. Very frustrating. So whatever way you do it, make sure they're in a safe spot. Alright, one more thing. Make sure you take your door handle off. We cannot have that on when we go to plane the door. If the hinge pin decides to give you a little bit of trouble, what you could do, take a little pry bar here, stick them on the top, and just pop the pin out like that. Alright, so I got my door outside. I have it on my little stand. I'm actually using a horse with little extensions that come out of the legs. Really handy for if you're cutting drywall or plywood or planing a door. But you can use whatever you want. Just make sure, obviously, it's stable enough to hold the door while you're planing it, so you can't be wobbling around. Yeah, so I think we're ready to go over the details of the planer and the sander. Alright, so here's the planer I'm going to be using. It's a DeWalt battery-powered planer. Has a very large bag to catch all the sawdust coming off because it does kick up quite a bit. I'm actually going to change the setting to a 32nd, which is half of a 16th. So in my experience, it's better to do multiple small passes than one large pass. So if you have to take an 1/8 off of a door, I mean, you could set it to a 16th and do 2 passes. I prefer setting it to a 32nd and doing 4 passes. So less is more with this. So if you take off too much at once, the result isn't going to be that great, and you could chip the door. So just do small passes. It goes really quick. It's a fraction of the time more. So definitely worth it. And this has a little guide bar on it here too. So obviously we're going to start at the end, but I'm just showing you how this hooks in. This is going to glide against the door as you plane it down. When you use the planer, make sure it's straight. It's very easy while you're cutting just to get distracted and tilt it around. Make sure you're nice and flat and do not go fast. Go not too slow, but you want to go somewhere right in the middle. So to do this whole little run, it should take you probably about 10 seconds or so. So don't rush and do as many planes as you need to. Alright, so last thing before we hang this door, we have to sand it down. I'm going to use a DeWalt battery-powered orbital sander. I'm going to sand the face and then the sides. Now, if you're not that great with the sander, I don't recommend using an orbital sander on the sides because you could gnarl it up pretty bad. But again, if you have a sander and you're not really that great with it yet, you can always take off the pad and just do the edges by hand. So perfectly fine. Alright, so we got our door up here, we're plain sanded, and it's ready to be hung back up on the jamb. When you start lining the hinge sections up, it can be a little tricky, even if they're like a 30-second off, it can give you a hard time. It's always a good idea to have a little pry bar on you. You may not need it, but it's just always good to have, just in case while you're right here trying to, you know, see if you can shove it underneath the door, step on it to kind of kick it up a little bit. It might need a little help. And make sure you have your hinge pins ready to go and accessible. So on the first one, I usually hang on to one, and then once I get that one in, I'll try to drop it in. You don't have to drive it home, so just kind of get it in there just so it's, you know, holding it in place, and then you can work on the other one. So each door is a little bit different, so start with one and see how it goes. Alright, after your hinge pins are in, you can either take a hammer or you can use this little pry bar here, take the end of it. And knock all the hinge pins all the way down. So our reveals look good. We're good all the way down. You want it about maybe like an 1/8, maybe 3/16. This door is not painted yet, so I do have to keep that in mind that if it's barely getting past the jamb now while unpainted, when you paint it, I guarantee you it will rub. So make sure you have enough clearance between the door and the jamb. Alright guys, well that's the end of the video. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you need help installing the doorknob, I do have a video on that, so if you need help, check it out. Other than that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.